Well, the Public Order Policing Unit has been, for many years, criticised for not being strategic when dealing with protesting crowds. They appear to be emasculated now, from Nkandla right up to these Free Zuma protests. They seem to be a bit on the edge, ensuring that they do not mess up. So could our law enforcement agency have handled the situation much better? Themba Masuku of the African Police and Civilian Oversight Forum joins me now for this conversation. Themba, thank you so much for availing your time to us. So the Public Order Policing Unit has time and time again come under fire for the way in which protests are contained. But as you observe what's happening in KwaZulu-Natal and police visibility, or one would say lack thereof, do you think that the police are in over their heads?
Good evening, and thank you very much for having us. Whenever there is a protest, obviously it does put a lot of spotlight on policing, and in particular public order policing. The fact that there's a bit of widespread of protests that are taking place in KZN. Obviously, that would have stretched quite their capacity and their capability to be at every incident that is happening. Because remember, public order is specialized. These are specialized units, and they don't have the kind of capacity to contain the level of disruptions that are taking place in KZN. But again, having said that, it is very important for policing at this stage to also remember their own constitutional kind of mandate, that their mandate is to perform their work within the confines of the law.
But, you know, when you're observing it, you're saying that perhaps capacity would be an issue simply because it is a specialized unit and you have to now consider how many people are actually deployed to that unit. But the police at this moment in time, Themba, seem to be a little bit too careful that this time around, you know, it's almost like they're walking through a minefield. And can we even call it a political minefield that they're not prepared for at this stage?
Not at all. The police have got a constitutional responsibility to prevent, to investigate, and to make sure that any acts of criminality are dealt with. But here, there are a number of competing other rights that are at play. So in as much as people have fundamental rights to protest and to express their freedoms, there is a responsibility here as well to make sure that in doing so, we are responsible to make sure that there's no destruction of property, there's no loss of life. So when it comes to policing, I don't think they are withdrawing their services. I think they are on the ground. I would think they are working very hard. We may not be seeing them because we're used to uniformed officers. But I would imagine that in an incident like this, their capacity would be stretched, but they will be doing their utmost best to make sure that those acts of criminality are investigated and those people who are committing those crimes are arrested.
I hear you, Themba. Just to interject there, I absolutely hear you, and I know that you are trying to advocate for confidence in the police. However, given what we've seen on Friday night, given where the situation is like on Saturday, the tallying up of how many trucks have been destroyed, what we've been privy to as the public to witness through some of the journalists who've been covering this event, can you really confidently say that the police have contained and have got some serious hold on this situation? You don't think that they're overwhelmed at this particular moment in time? I'm telling you now, from where I sit, just as an observer, with the burning trucks, it does not look too pretty.
It doesn't look pretty at all. I'm not sure whether they are overstretched or they're failing in their duty. It could be true that these incidents are happening. Obviously, they would have to rely on other capabilities to identify where these things are going to be happening. They will have to rely a great deal on, for example, your crime intelligence to identify those kind of hotspots. Remember, in these kind of incidents, it's very difficult to know, unless we've got intelligence, that certain incidences are going to be happening in this issue. That's why in policing, for policing to be effective, You also need community leaders, your community forums, to be very, very effective in this area, because they are on the ground, they are with the people. They probably would have known some of these incidents, some of these incidents that are happening. So you need, police need to mobilize communities as well to play a very important role.
Yeah,
you need time, you need also leaders to also be on the ground to make sure that there's a civic duty to contain and to calm tempers that are out there.
Well, you say that there's a civic duty to calm tempers that are out there, but one would say, Themba, that if evidence and history provides us with any form of insight as to how public order policing is conducted in this country, one would say that police are not afraid when there is a fees must fall protests, that the police are right there front row and center when you've got a bunch of students that are marching for a free education, or when there are unemployment-related protests, or dare I say that there are any protests that are related to, advocating for the fall of gender-based violence, for example. They're right there front row and center. We've witnessed it time and time again. What makes them so overly stretched this time around? If history presents itself, they certainly know how to show up and show off.
And I've been on a show several times condemning police action, condemning the brutality, and calling for police to be restrained, and calling for rights-based policing. That in these kind of incidences, police need to observe the rights of people and the right to life. So we're very, as an organization, we've been very consistent with our messaging. So even in this incident, we're calling for police to be on the ground, to be visible, to bring confidence into the community, into communities, and to make sure that property and life is protected. So the calling for police to do anything else other than to play their policing role in a manner that is rights-based, in a manner that protects the dignity and the right to life, would be very reckless. We want police officers who are effective, but who are also respectful of the rights of people.
Yeah, I hear you. Themba Masuku, we'll leave it there, Program Manager at African Policing Civilian Oversight Forum, giving us his insights on the nature in which policing is taking place as these protests continue.